What if your biggest limit is not your talent, but the story you believe about it? Two people can face the same setback and walk away with completely different futures. One sees failure as a verdict, the other sees it as information. That difference begins with mindset, the lens through which you interpret your life. Mindset is an invisible filter shaping what you notice, expect, and do next. It can turn a difficult challenge into a warning or an invitation. It can make criticism feel like an attack or a map for improvement. And it can decide whether you try again after the first attempt goes wrong. Psychologist Carol Dweck called these patterns fixed mindset and growth mindset. A fixed mindset assumes ability is mostly permanent. A growth mindset assumes ability can develop through practice, feedback, and time. This does not mean pretending every problem is easy. It means believing difficulty is not proof that you are incapable. Think of learning a skill at work, in school, or even at the gym. The first awkward attempt often feels like evidence you should quit, but an awkward first attempt is usually just the starting line. So today, we will uncover the belief system quietly shaping your potential. By the end, you will know how to turn setbacks into steps forward. To understand growth, first picture your mindset as an internal operating system. It runs quietly in the background, influencing almost every decision you make. Mindset is not just positive thinking. It is a collection of beliefs about yourself, others, and the world. Those beliefs shape what you notice, what you attempt, and what you avoid. Imagine two people receiving the exact same rejection email. One sees a final verdict, the other sees information. The event is identical, but the meaning is completely different. And meaning drives emotion, behavior, and eventually results. When a new task appears, your mind immediately asks a revealing question. Is this proof that I cannot do it or a skill I can develop? That question separates limitation from possibility. Psychologist Carol Dweck's research made this difference especially clear. Students who believed ability could grow were more willing to learn from difficulty. They did not treat struggle as evidence of low intelligence. They treated it as part of the learning process. This is why long-term growth depends on interpretation, not just starting talent. Your starting point matters, but your response to difficulty determines where you go next. Now, let's compare the two mindsets that shape those responses. A fixed mindset assumes intelligence and ability are mostly permanent. In that view, you either have what it takes, or you do not. So a difficult task can feel like a threat to your identity. Imagine opening a low test score after studying for days. A fixed mindset reaction says, I'm just not smart enough. That conclusion turns one result into a permanent label. Then the safest move seems to be quitting before trying again. A growth mindset begins with a different assumption. Your current ability is a starting point, not a final verdict. Instead of asking, am I smart enough? Ask, what can I learn? That question turns failure into information. Psychologist Carol Dweck's research made this distinction famous. Her work showed how beliefs about ability influence effort and persistence. The goal is not to prove you are already talented. It is to become better than your previous self. And remember, these mindsets are not permanent labels. You may think expansively at work, yet feel fixed in relationships or fitness. Those flexible mindsets matter because fixed thinking can quietly turn failure into fear. A mistake stops feeling like an event and starts feeling like a verdict. Instead of thinking, that strategy failed, the mind whispers, I am a failure. That is how one result becomes an identity label. A low grade becomes, I'm not smart. A rejected application becomes, I'm not capable. But those conclusions confuse performance with potential. Psychologist Carol Dweck's research showed how powerful these beliefs can become. In her well-known studies, some children avoided harder problems after success. They were protecting the image of being smart. This happens beyond classrooms too, especially at work. Imagine an employee with a brilliant idea who never raises their hand in a team meeting. They fear one awkward comment could expose them as incompetent. So they choose silence because silence feels safer than uncertainty. The same pattern appears in dating, fitness, and creative work. You avoid the gym after one difficult workout or stop writing after one harsh review. Short-term avoidance protects your confidence. Long-term, it shrinks your world. Every avoided challenge teaches your brain, this is dangerous, and the invisible barrier grows until curiosity and progress can barely get through. But that barrier weakens when failure becomes information, not identity. Instead of asking, what's wrong with me? Ask, what can this teach me? That small question turns a setback into a learning task. This is the heart of psychologist Carol Dweck's growth mindset research. Your abilities are not fixed statues, they are more like muscles. They strengthen through deliberate practice, useful feedback, and repeated effort. Talent may give you a head start, but strategy determines how far you travel. When one method fails, growth-minded people change the method, not the goal. Imagine failing a job interview and treating it like a practice report. You could review your answers, improve your examples, and try again. That is how persistence becomes intelligent rather than merely stubborn. Growth also means being willing to ask for help. In a workplace, that might mean requesting feedback before the annual review. In learning, it might mean joining a study group instead of struggling alone. Progress accelerates when effort is supported by other people's perspectives. So measure more than the outcome. Measure what you learned along the way. Every mistake can become evidence that you are building a stronger mind. That stronger mind becomes powerful when the stakes get higher, especially in sports, business, and leadership. In each arena, setbacks are not just obstacles, they are performance data. Consider Michael Jordan, widely remembered as one of basketball's greatest players. His story includes missed shots, rejected opportunities, and painful losses. But those moments became part of the training, not proof that he lacked ability. That is the growth mindset in action. Use the miss to improve the next attempt. Talent alone can create a trap. When someone believes failure is unacceptable, they may avoid bold decisions, protect their image, or blame circumstances. In business, that hesitation can quietly hand the advantage to competitors. Growth-minded companies study stronger rivals instead of dismissing them. They ask, what are they doing better? And what can we test next? That question turns competition into a source of innovation. The same principle applies to leadership. Strong leaders do not freeze people inside old labels. Instead of saying, she is not a natural, they ask what support could unlock her potential. They invest in training, useful feedback, and opportunities to practice. Because a person's current performance is a snapshot, not a permanent identity. In sports, business, or leadership, improvement begins when setbacks become instructions. Those instructions matter even more when adults are shaping a child's mindset. A child does not just hear your words. They learn what those words mean about who they are. Calling a child smart sounds positive, but it can create pressure to always prove it. When challenges appear, that label may feel safer to protect than their curiosity. This pattern appeared in research by psychologist Carol Dweck and her colleagues. Children praised for intelligence often avoided harder tasks after setbacks. Children praised for effort were more willing to try, adjust, and continue. So praise the process, not empty compliments, and not just the final score. Say, you practice consistently, or that new strategy helped. Specific praise teaches children which actions they can repeat. When failure happens, do not rush to erase the disappointment. Start by saying, I can see that this hurts. Then ask, what happened, and what could we try next? That balance combines emotional support with honest accountability. And replace, you can't do this, with you can't do this yet. But yet is not magic. Children still need tools, time, and guidance. Protecting children from every failure can quietly weaken resilience. Let them face manageable setbacks. With support, reflection, and another attempt. With manageable setbacks behind us, the next step is learning to change your own inner dialogue. Start by noticing the fixed mindset sentence. I'm not good at this. You cannot change a thought you never pause to recognize. Then add one small word, yet. I'm not good at this yet. That tiny word changes a verdict into a work in progress. This idea reflects Carol Dweck's growth. Mindset research abilities can develop through learning and practice. Next, choose a challenge small enough to begin today. Maybe it is one difficult email, 10 minutes of practice, or a single difficult problem. The goal is not instant mastery. The goal is useful information. Afterward, ask what worked, what failed, and what will I change. This is the same learning loop used by strong teams and successful entrepreneurs. As James Clear explains in Atomic Habits, small improvements compound over time. So measure what you can control: preparation, practice, questions, and feedback. Do not wait to feel confident before acting. Action often creates confidence. When criticism arrives, treat it as data, not a definition of your worth. Repeat this process, and your brain begins to expect learning instead of escape. You do not need a dramatic transformation. One deliberate response today can change tomorrow's direction. And that is the real takeaway. Mindset shapes the meaning you give to every challenge. The event itself is only part of the story. Your interpretation determines what happens next. A fixed mindset turns difficulty into a verdict. This proves I cannot. It may protect you from discomfort, but it quietly keeps your world small. A growth mindset asks a better question: what can this teach me? That question turns failure from an identity into information. This is the heart of Carol Dweck's research on growth mindset. Abilities are not frozen statues. They are more like muscles strengthened through practice. Think of Michael Jordan. Missed shots became evidence to study, not reasons to stop. The same principle works in your career, relationships, and everyday decisions. You do not need confidence before you begin. Action is often what creates confidence. So when you hear, I am not good at this, add one powerful word, yet. Then choose one small behavior, practice, ask, revise, or try again. Small actions repeated consistently become proof that change is possible. Tonight, notice one limiting belief you usually accept without question. Tomorrow, challenge it with one deliberate step. Now share your experience. When did something impossible become possible for you? Comment below, subscribe to Learn with Leo, and keep choosing growth, one step at a time.